this is a true testament to my abilities as an actor because I just got some really bad news. And I'm just gonna go ahead and make this video, and I'm not gonna tell you what it is. It's not really bad news, but you know, it's like something to be worried about. But I'm not gonna be worried, and I'm gonna go. And this is the third time I'm trying to make this video, so but I'm gonna make it for you. Transformers Episode 3. Let's go. Alright, so we're starting off with Optimus sends his little robot Roller up there, you know, and then the bomb goes off, and then he yells out, "Roller! Oh my god, Roller is hurt!" But he fails to remember that he sent Bumblebee and Sparkplug, and they're both trapped inside the cave, and he could have died. But he doesn't think about them. You know, that's really interesting. Only a minute into the episode, and they're like, "Oh yeah, and those guys, let's get those guys out of there too." Then Roller is R2D2. Like, pretty much. Transformer after damage can be hard. So you've got basically that's a spiritual wisdom. You know, if someone has had a traumatic experience, and transforming beyond that traumatic experience can be rather difficult. So there's something there. And then Jazz says, "Welcome to the world of moving parts," to Optimus after he transforms. Interesting. Some might say that once you transform, you enter into a whole new world, and the whole thing about moving parts, there may be some spiritual wisdom there about being active once you transform and being a consistently moving element in the world of the cosmos. Who knows? Then you've got many sky warps. I'm not even going to count how many sky warps there are, but I will tell you later. Yes, I will be counting them. But there's like, I thought there was only one sky warp and one thundercracker, but no, they just keep like, "Hey, look at all of these." Ironhide's cannon was already out, and he's flying to attack Skywarp. It's like, it's out, and then he's like, "I'm gonna get him," and then it comes out again, and he shoots him. That makes no sense. Like, you could have just left it out, but okay. And on a side note, Ironhide's the toy looks nothing like Ironhide, neither does Ratchet. It was like, they had a schematic, and like, "We'll just paint this one white, and we'll paint this one red," okay? And we'll just, which is pretty much the same thing that they did with a lot of toys from the 80s, or even toys now. They're like, "Okay, in the same exact body, but we'll just paint it differently because it's cheaper." And on a side note, they did make him out of die-cast. Now they make him out of plastic. He got hit in his back end. Your butt joke. And then Ratchet says about Ironhide, because Ironhide falls. Ironhide falls, and then Ratchet, someone saves him, and then they put him inside Ratchet, because Ratchet transforms into an ambulance, and Ratchet says, "Get him inside." And I say, that's what she said. Ironhide is Cop. It's pretty much the same, because Ironhide starts rambling about how, like, "Oh, back in Megatron, back in Cybertron, all these things." It's like, he's pretty much the same character. Those of you that don't know who Cup is, Cup shows up after the movie. Writing by Spike is way too fast. So Spike goes like, "Hey, the Transformers are amazing creatures that are like," it's like, really, like, that's one of the things that bothers me in cartoons. It's like, when you write like a regular person, not like, "Hey, and the Transformer," you're not crossing off a freaking list, okay? Hound creates holograms. We already were introduced to that earlier. And Ravage is a panther, not a stupid panther. Basically what happens is that Hound is, you know, he has this idea that he's going to create this hologram, and he's going to fool the Decepticons, and he's going to fight them on their ground. So Hound is like standing right next to Ravage, and he's like, "Hey, I know," and he's like twirling the key, and he's like, "I know of this amazing place that is over there, like 5 millimeters, and this is the exact location." Well, I'm twirling the key, and I'm telling you exactly where it is, but I'm not telling you, Ravage, I'm telling this other guy, but I know that Ravage is like in a cage right next to me and listening to it, and oops, I dropped the key to the cage. I'm gonna walk away now. Really? Really? You didn't think that they would figure this out? Like, really? And then you discover that Ravage has a voice. You know, Ravage, the tape starts playing, and then Ravage, the voice, records. You can hear Ravage's voice. Who knew? Who knew? But he can only talk while he's inside Soundwave, but he can't talk while he's outside Soundwave. Sorry. And then Megatron and Starscream fight, and then you realize that Starscream is trying to take over, and Megatron says to Starscream, "You couldn't lead ant droids to a picnic." Ant droids, get it? Androids, ant droids. Oh, and Megatron has a shield too. Like, all of a sudden, like, hey, I have a shield. Like, what? I don't think the shield shows up in any of the other episodes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, these Transformers have like, they're like the Swiss Army knives. Are like, look, I have an umbrella. Look, I have this. Like, out of nowhere. You discover that Starscream is a whim because he begs for his life. And what is Megatron's obsession with fighting at sunrise? Like, they sit there and they this is the second time in 3 episodes that Megatron's like, we're gonna fight at sunrise. And it's like this head-on shot. We're like, we're gonna fight at sunrise. It's like, okay, there's a spiritual lesson to that. People who study spiritual technologies, you know what I'm talking about. So now there are 2 Starscreams, which actually in the shot, which at first I was like, okay, it makes no sense, but then later it makes sense because yes, they're okay, because basically they're fooling them. The Decepticons are onto them. They're like, yeah, we know. So they made robots to look like them. But what I don't understand is that why are they wearing lab coats? Why are the Autobots wearing lab coats? Mind you, they could have made holograms of people that were scientists, but no, they put on these lab coats and they realize, oh my gosh, we're gonna wear these lab coats and they're not gonna notice us, even though we're like 5 times the size of humans with these lab coats, where I don't know what we got them made to our size. Yeah, it's just I'm sorry. It just made no sense. It made no sense for these robots to be wearing lab coats. And then you've got, and then they discover, and then Megatron. Oh, so Megatron tells them, he goes, we're somewhere else, and we're already fighting somewhere else, but these 8 planes that are right next to Megatron take off. I'm like, I thought they were already there. Like, what? And then all these 8 planes are many different colors. Like, they're dark blue and light blue and lavender and dark purple. And you're like, I thought that was 3 planes. Starscream, Skywarp, and Thundercracker. Where did these 8 planes come from? Megatron's favorite word, excellent. From The Simpsons. That's, if you watched the previous episode, you know what I can tell you about that. Megatron prepare for Blastoff. Mind you, Blastoff later ends up being a Transformer. Blastoff later as a Transformer. And if you tell me under what who Blastoff is part of a group, bonus points for you. Jazz was next to so there's this one scene that Jazz is next to Optimus, and Optimus is like, hey, we're gonna go fight the Decepticons, and then he's like, who's gonna fight with me? And then you see the lineup, and Jazz is next to Optimus, and in the lineup, Jazz is right there, and he's right next to Hound, and then you jump back to Optimus talking to Jazz, and Jazz is right there. So clearly, Jazz also can teletransport. Who knew? And then I stopped counting how many Thundercrackers and Skywarps there were, because there's just there's like 5, 6, 7, I don't know. And then there's this then there's another point where Rumble is choking Hound, right? He's choking Hound. And you see this white smoke that comes up, or white bubbles that comes up, and you're like, where is this white bubble coming up? Because that is the same drawing from the previous episode. They just took it and placed it on top. I mean, like, I don't know who they were paying to do this animation, but like, I'm sorry, like, yeah. So, it's just, yeah, okay. Did Megatron just kill Roller? Like Megatron shoots at Optimus and Roller explodes and you're like, and Optimus doesn't even care. He's like, I'm gonna now it's between you and me, mano a mano. Like, weren't you worried about Roller earlier and now you just shot him and killed him in front of you and you don't even care? Okay. Autobot aim sucks. Like you've got like 8 Autobots shooting at like 9 Decepticons and they can't hit one. Like, and it's not like, and they're on an elevator, and it's not like a super fast elevator. It's like a slow moving elevator. Like it's like we're shooting it. It's like it makes no sense. Which I guess it adds to the storyline because Autobots are not really fighters. And then Optimus Prime is kind of a dick. You'll kind of realize that. Optimus goes, I said I'm fine! Like, okay, Optimus Cash. Like, we were only concerned for you. And you'll see this theme happening later. Like, there's these crazy glitches happening to Optimus. And then their jokes are corny. And oh, and then you know they're like, oh, can I go to another planet, Dad? Like Spike says to his father, he goes, hey, can I go to Cybertron? Like, mind you, you guys are not astronauts. You've just met these people that come from another planet, and you're like, can I go to their planet? Even though I'm not an astronaut, I've only worked at a rig, and I can now go to another planet. Which, for the sense of adventure, I say yay, that's awesome, but for the sense of reality, it's like, don't you need to study to become an astronaut before you can go to another planet that no one has ever been to before? Just a thought. And that's it. Oh, there was one last thing, and it's almost time to blast off, and blast off is a Transformer later. So I will be watching the next Transformer episode, and I will let you know. 11 minutes. Wow, it's getting longer.